Hello, I'm Amy from Mindology.com, and today I want to look at the chart of Nigel Farage. If you don't know who this man is, he created the UKIP party and he is a journalist, a major driver behind the Brexit vote, and now he is the leader of the Reform Party. Nigel Farage's name started popping up around about 2014 to 2016 in households as he came to the forefront. Nigel is a Eurosceptic who was a member of the European Parliament for the South East, and he is currently a MP in the UK for the area of Clacton. His ascendant is in Purva Phalguni, which is the party nakshatra. He will be rather carefree and rely on his luck, and I would say that he is a happy-go-lucky kind of guy, being very sociable, mixing with people. You know, he really loves that, and there is a tendency towards extremes or narcissism, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he was artistic in some way. The ascendant conjunct Pluto can make him very controlling and manipulative. And there's a great power here, which is an unstoppable nature. So there is a desire to have power and sit right at the top. He's captivating, but he can also be seen as committing a great violation to others. And this is the power of Pluto. And as powerful and as deep as it is, it's also taboo. And Nigel Farage is indeed taboo. And powerful as a politician, if ever I've seen one. But Uranus is also in the first house, which can make him very unconventional and rebellious. He will refuse to conform to the norms, which is certainly what I've seen in his politics. And he's constantly fighting against the status quo. He's someone who will be interested in technology, so he's active on social media platforms, and he may be the first to utilise new tools, especially in the government. The first ruler is in the 8th, and this is very good for his vitality, longevity, as well as his charm. And this kind of placement is very similar to having Pluto on the ascendant, as it's powerful, it's magnetic, and we also have to think about what he will do as a leader. The 8th house is about research, science, psychology, and most of all, taxation. Gotta love a bit of that. And this is also an accident-prone placement. So when this planet is highlighted, there can be scandal. And he knows that. And this is also the house of other people's money. So Nigel Farage should be able to make the tax contributions and make the banks dance to his flute. So on the subject of tax, I think he could manage this area incredibly well. Sun and Mars are in the 8th, and he will be very interested in things that are behind the scenes, such as secret services and the likes. His whole life will always be full of scandal and slander. Sometimes success can be found through unethical means, but he's very good at handling the money of others. Cryptocurrency is also very 8th house, and I bet you he has some of that. Mars in the 8th can create accidents, and reading about him, he had a plane crash as well as being run over in the 80s. He almost lost his leg, according to what I read. And I wonder if he found some kind of spirituality through the experience. I have read that he suggested that God saved his life during the plane crash, so I do think that accidents and scandal will only stand to deepen his faith. I'm presuming that he has one, as English people don't tend to really put things down to God flippantly. We're mostly miserable atheists, and we all think that when we die, that's it. I do believe that looking at this chart, he must have some sort of faith. I also see a bit of a temper, but by funneling that temper into campaigning and fighting the system, I believe that in this respect, he probably has good control over it, gets it out of his system due to his work. So the ruler of the 4th, being in the 8th, can create problems with security, which can sometimes create danger for him. And I would say that he has had difficulty with his mother in some respect, or she may have been a very sickly person. I couldn't find anything about her, unfortunately. Jupiter and Mercury are in the 9th, and this is a very spiritual combination, and he will not buy into blind faith. There is a great enthusiasm, as well as positive relationships with teachers and those within the field of litigation. And he's very good at communicating. And this is why he managed to also have a career in the media. He can also have a great love and appreciation for philosophy. And this is a clue towards him being religious as well. He tends to be favoured in the eyes of the law, and he will be very good at talking his way out of a problem. Not only that, he is very, very lucky, but this can enable him to do naughty things too. The 2nd and the 11th ruler being in the 9th is a huge Dana Raja yoga, and he can bring a lot of money to whatever he touches. Not only that, he has an incredibly strong speech ability, and he is good at preaching. His 9th house and Jupiter are overall pretty good, and the placement from the moon is really good as well. And so you could say that his intentions overall are good. But there is an affliction from both Saturn and Ketu, which can lessen this to some degree as well. There's a Purva yoga between the 8th and the 9th house, which makes Mars and Jupiter much stronger. I would usually say that he would have to watch out for extreme teachers and cults. Perhaps he is in a cult, that's what the news says. But then again, the 8th house is about scandal, so we could be looking at a literal representation of being falsely accused of running a cult. To be fair to all politicians, it is a game of popularity, so there will be true scandals as well as lies that come out about all politicians. Just like with Donald Trump, the bigger the threat, the more people resort to name calling. And I wish we could focus on policy instead. It's pretty childish. Saturn is very strong in the 7th house. He will be very generous, but to his own detriment. And this will also be seen in his marriages. He will always be attracted to people who are serious and powerful, as well as having a soft spot for, ironically, foreigners. It's interesting. But as the 6th and the 7th of relation, the 6th is in the 7th of relationships, it can be very difficult, and there can be a lot of conflict in his romance. And I know that he's had 2 marriages, and this is one of the afflictions that can bring difficulty. Saturn is very strong, but is a malefic, and this can mean that he will stay in relationships longer than he really should. But on the flip side, his business abilities are off the charts, and this would be where he would have been able to generate a lot of revenue, as well as make a lot of friends in high places. Venus is very strong in the 10th house, and this would have contributed to his fame and popularity. His reputation is pretty unbreakable here. A benefic planet in the 10th house, it's called an Amala Yoga, and this is said to bring a stainless reputation. Not sure about completely stainless, but nothing sticks to him. But regardless of what people say about him, it will be near on impossible to actually destroy him. This man is so strong, and people will follow him, and they will listen to the things that he says, no matter what the opposition does. He does have a lot of compassion in his chart, and this will be a pointer to that. His 10th ruler being in the 10th gives him so many opportunities in his career. He was destined to have his work be his life, and his life falls down in other places. This is where his heart is, self-expression, and it's really important to him, as well as communication of ideas. He's brave in his career. He stands up for the things that he believes in. Rahu is very strong, and it's in the 11th, which is a contributor to his wealth and fame. What do you need to gain popularity? Associates. Rahu brings powerful associates. But remember, Rahu often comes with a price as well. K2 is strong in the 5th and conjunct the moon. So this gives gifts in intelligence and general focus. So he'll have good common sense and be able to solve problems with relative ease. So this is a person who loves mixing with people and going to all kinds of events. I'd say children are also important to him. He'll like love affairs. Gambling's probably something he enjoys as well. K2 can make him very spiritual, but it can also give a lot of compassion. But there is a tendency towards believing conspiracies, paranoia, but also obsessive ideas. So if he does ever get into a position of leadership, he will absolutely support oil, gas, and things are like this. But these are important things to him, and he will believe those things will really push the economy and the country forward. As the 5th ruler is in the 9th, he will be a very lucky person and people will want to give him opportunities. This is what makes him popular. The moon is in Mula, and this is the root nakshatra. And this is all about getting to the bottom of the situation. This is about breaking down illusions, exposing reality. And sometimes there can be a tendency towards blaming others for things, which is, I think, the perception of some of his ideas. Very often there is an experience of unfairness that drives this person to spirituality, but also solving problems. And this is why there is a great ability with research. Across this chart, there is significant power, and that makes him the kind of person who wants to sit down and talk to the whole world and get their views, compile the data and resolve the issues that people have. And the 8th house makes him a great researcher. He has excellent communication skills, that drive, he wants to raise his reputation, and he wants to speak with both his fans and his enemies. But my predictions about Nigel are pretty much that he's going to keep on the up and up. He could find himself experiencing a lot of scandal and accusations, especially between 2027 and 2028. But I do think that if an election takes place in the UK mid 2028 to 2029, he really is a candidate for winning. Of course I have to compare him against other leaders other than Starmer, but I think Starmer could really give him a run for his money if he's still in office come 2028. Nigel is very powerful in his career, and he is in the Rahu Mahadasha and has been since 2012. March 2024 to March 2027, he is incredibly powerful. He then has another period of great power between January 2028 and July 2029, which is the prime time for a potential election in the UK. In order for Farage to be beaten, they will need to put forward someone who has a strong chart. Nigel's is very strong, especially at that time, and I do think that we will be experiencing a financial crisis, and more people will start to be convinced by Farage in desperation or disillusion. But either way, we can already see that his politics are growing, and if Starmer doesn't start making better decisions, he may find he loses his position. I hope you found this chart of Farage to be interesting, but I will see you next week. Thank you very much. Bye.